Hello and welcome to the Broadcast Tech Talks podcast, TV industry podcast from the Broadcast Tech team. My name's Jet Bickerton and I'm the editor of Broadcast Sport and Broadcast Tech magazines. We're here to talk about gender representation in all the different areas of post-production industry to mark International Women's Day 2022. I've got two great guests with me today. We've got Jet Omoshebi from Goldcrest, and we also have Natascha Cadle at Envy as well. I'll get both of them to introduce themselves rather than me rambling on, and they can tell us a little bit about their backgrounds and how they got to be in the amazing positions they're in today. Jet, do you want to start us off with a bit of a kind of career highlights?
Oh gosh, okay, sure. Well, Jet Omoshebi, I work at Goldcrest post-production. I've been, as a colourist, as senior colourist, I've been a colourist for quite a long time now. I've been in the industry about 30 years, working my way up right from the bottom. Literally started as a receptionist, actually in a sound house, in through bookings, in through assisting. It's taken a while, and it hasn't all been a very sort of linear trajectory. I've had a few dips and peaks, and I've worked for quite a few different companies. Now mainly doing high-end sort of broadcast drama and some feature films.
We'll come on to what it's been like as a woman going through a kind of career trajectory that I imagine when you first started as a colourist, there wasn't too many other sort of female colourists around. We'll come on to that in a minute. And after Natascha gives us an intro to herself as well.
Hi, I'm Natascha Cadle. I'm creative director and co-founder of Envy Post. And I'm actually a relative newcomer to the world of post-production because I've only been in it for 16 years. I've done pretty much what Jed said as well. I've started at the beginning. I was a runner. I've literally been in engineering at Channel 4, which is kind of unusual. And I decided to go the more creative route, and I became a production assistant and a promo producer. And then I became a creative director before we set up Envy Post-Production, which has now been going for, in March, it'll be 16 years.
Wow. So engineering background originally for Natascha, and so probably very similar experience to Jet, I would imagine, when you're first, starting off in these roles that, take you down this certain path. You must look around you at that time and think, there's quite a lot of blokes here and not that many women. Jet, what was your experience like and what's it like now?
I didn't have any other point of reference when I started. Not only were there no women, but there were really no people of colour, or very few people of colour doing my job. But I don't know how much I focus on that when I started, to be honest. It was not until a bit later on where I felt people were people made me aware of it. I mean, you'd sort of be at the desk and a client would walk in and go, "Oh my God, it's a woman," or you'd be aware. Actually, that has been said, and you'd also be aware that perhaps you were having to spend the first half of the session proving you could do the job, and then everybody would relax. But there was definitely a feeling that I became aware of as I got sort of more jobs and the jobs became more important. That there was that sort of feeling of, can she actually do this? And I always thought, well, I put myself in their shoes, and I thought, well, if I went to a typically male, I'm going to say a mechanic, and there was a woman mechanic, would I have a moment of thinking, my goodness, I wonder if she can do that? Or I wonder, do you know what I mean? And so I think by being able to put myself in their shoes and go, well, this is unusual, but I'm just going to, power through and prove that I can do the job.
Right.
So yes, the landscape has completely changed, thank goodness. But I think, I always understood what I was up against, really.
Did that help sort of spur you on a little bit at the start, do you think? Do you think that kind of created a bit of I'll show them to some degree, or?
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like being told you can't do something to make you want to prove you can.
No, that's very true. And Natascha, was, from an engineering perspective in the broadcast industry as well. You know, it's the same, isn't it? That's just
I mean, I agree with Jet. Actually, I mean, it's more important to focus on, I guess, doing the work than being a woman in the industry. So it is one of those things that you just kind of. I never really had a problem with it, and a bit like Jet, somebody had to point it out to me, because I just thought, you know, I'm just doing what I'm doing, and it's absolutely fine. It just how you conduct yourself, what you do, you know, show people that you can do it, and that you are as capable as anybody else. Really, it doesn't really matter if you're male or female, as far as I'm concerned, really.
And what about at Envy now? Is there much of a gender balance in those kind of engineering roles as well as the creative roles?
Yeah, I mean, we really do focus, on trying to create just diversity full stop, really, not just about gender. I think it's hugely important. I mean, my background, I'm from Holland, and I've got, you know, various different sort of backgrounds anyway, so I always kind of encourage that regardless. But it's hard, because, as Jet knows, because doing the craft that you do, Jet, with regards to being a colorist, I mean, it takes years to hone these skills. And, you know, when people say, oh, why have you just got white men? It's kind of like, well, it takes a good 10 to 15 years to cultivate someone of seniority. And you can't just say, oh, here you go, here's a woman and she's going to just do this all of a sudden overnight. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately, in our industry. You know, the craft that Jet has created over the years has taken a long time to do, and you can't just create something like that overnight. So I do hope in the next 5 to 10 years that things will completely be different. I mean, we are definitely got so much training going on, and, you know, that's always been our priority, to train and to make sure that, you know, we show young people what is actually available in our industry, because a lot of young people don't know much about post-production. And, you know, we have to educate people to say, look at all these fantastic jobs in this industry. It's not something that you learn in you know, when you go to sort of primary school. They don't just go, oh, this is going to be a really good industry for you to get into. So we need to shout about it. You know, we need to sort of educate people of the fantastic jobs that are available in our industry.
Well, Jet, do you do much of that as part of your role? You know, now you've got to the level that you're at, and you say that things are a bit different now compared to when you first became a colorist.
Absolutely, and I've had lots of female assistants, and talk a lot to, you know, to all young people actually about ways into the industry. And I think that's one thing. I mean, training is one thing that I really do believe in. I'm really kind of quite hot about. Because I think, you know, as Natascha said, you've got to explain to people that there are more ways in the industry than they may think. You know, you may not have access to film school, or you may not, but there are other ways in. And especially these days, I think there are many paths into the industry, and our industry is very broad now. You know, there are so many different facets to what we do, and ways to get in. So I think that is something that we need to sort of encourage and to talk about. Absolutely, is just different ways that we can get people involved, and create diversity. But, you know, one thing I'm really proud of, I think, and this is industry wide, is our commitment to diversity. I really do feel that has happened. And you're absolutely right, Natascha. You know, it takes a long time to cultivate and to train but I think that if there's a commitment to doing it, and if there's a will to doing it, then it will happen. It just, you know, it's just a process.
Beyond each of the post houses having their own set kind of academies or equivalent schemes, is there a kind of a bigger industry body or group? You know, I'm thinking RISE, those kind of organizations that are helping enable this.
Yeah, I think it's hugely important. I mean, I've worked with RISE, I've worked with Wonder Women TV, I've worked with lots of different people to sort of, you know, spread the word and to talk about, you know, what is available and what we do, and in helping, you know, that's and mentoring is also a massive thing that I really believe in. So it is about education, it is about mentoring, it's about helping, you know, people, and it's about making people understand of what is around and what can be done, and, you know, and any sort of encouragement you can do in any shape, way, or form is the way forward.
And Jet, at Goldcrest, do you have anything in particular to try and drive a more diverse group of people into, say, becoming a colorist or some of the other roles that you have?
But I do know that that we are very, very keen on gender balance, especially. I mean, we probably tip slightly the other way. It's a very, very girl-centric.
Is it right? Interesting. Well, is that across the board? Is it, or in certain levels?
This is across the board.
Right.
Yeah. Certainly in sound, we have a lot of women. Most of our editors are women.
All right.
We've got 3 female colorists. So I think, and actually, I just think I think having that balance just works. I think everybody enjoys it. I think it's it's a different dynamic that I think actually men really enjoy also.
And it's always been the case at Goldcrest, or is it sort of a recent thing that you have this really good gender balance?
It's just always been. It's always been that way. When I joined, I was stunned by how many. I mean, all the editors were women when I joined. It's quite an interesting sort of recruitment drive, I think, to try and keep balance, and I think it works really well.
Yeah, fantastic.
I think recruitment at the moment seems to be a complete nightmare. Everybody is like after the same sort of people, and I guess for 2 years we've not had a lot of training happening for the younger generation, so we're also missing out a little bit on that. But I mean, gosh, if I could find more female colorists or editors or any at the moment, I'd be like, wow, yeah, bring it on.
So you think that's just down to your competitors sort of taking people that are in the pool that are women that have experience?
I mean, with very early on when we started Envy, I kind of looked at, I mean, I guess maybe because I came outside of post-production, I kind of looked at it and went, hang on a minute, there aren't many people that do this type of work. So you either have to steal or you have to grow. Yeah. So I literally just went, but there's not enough post houses around to steal them from, because then there'd be nothing left. So you have to grow. So we ended up setting up the Envy Academy, which works twofold, which is basically for educational purposes, but also to have a training scheme inside of Envy once you've come inside and has decided what you want to do. I mean, the runner role, which is just, I'm going slightly off piece, but the runner role is kind of not for the cups of tea and coffee. It's not about that. It's actually for young people to assess what they want to do, because they don't know all the roles that are available. And I have lots of young people coming going, oh, I'm going to be an editor. And you're like, okay. And then literally like a month later, they go, oh my God, I didn't know you did that. And you've got VFX and you've got like grading and you've got online and you've got off. It's all different. And they just didn't know. So they follow a different career path to what they thought they wanted. And I think the runner role is really good for that, because you will really enjoy your moment. You won't know when you're doing it, but yes, and the money is not great. But, I still have friends from my runner days, because it's just one of those moments you kind of grow and you suddenly go from, okay, I'm a student or I'm a young person going into this amazing world, and you're learning and you're seeing and you're just sort of observing and talking to your peers and talking to clients and all sorts of things, which is really, really useful. But yeah, it's education is hugely important, and growing these people into what they want to do. And yes, they get stolen frequently, because
good people do.
The training is good, and actually turnover it is fine. Obviously when you cultivate someone and they're really, really good, and then they get stolen, it's a little bit hard. It's like but it happens, and the problem with us, I guess, is because they've started with us. They need to see what it's like on the other side, and then sometimes they come back. We've now had 3 people done the runner route, left to go somewhere else, and now come back as a senior.
That's
so it's
sign.
Really, really, really nice. Yeah, so it's the full circle. But yeah, I mean, if we're helping the industry this way, then so be it.
But that runner route is an interesting one, isn't it? Because to become a runner, as you mentioned, you're going to have to go through a certain period of time where you're getting very little money. How does the desire to get a more diverse selection of a group of people into this industry equate with the runner position, which by very necessity means that you have to survive on very little money for a while?
I started as a runner, and a long time ago, and the money was rubbish then. So and I, I survived. I flat shared with people. Some weeks I had just baked beans and toast a lot, and then other times, you're a little bit more. If you do overtime, you get a little bit more. I mean, it's balance, isn't it? It's for every person. That's so individual, and I don't really think it matters what background you're from, because the money is the same, and your career path is, you have the same opportunities and you have the same things available to you, whatever gender or whatever background you're from. So you also need to kind of want it and have a passion for what you do in general to be able to progress. But that's so individual. I don't necessarily see that as a gender or a background issue.
It is not a well-paid role. It
Definitely
is still
not.
It's not worse paid than quite a lot of other jobs that people probably are going to start their careers doing.
Okay.
And it's at least it's hopefully it's not a free internship. I think what I always say to people is get in as a runner and shine. If you shine out of control, you will be moved up. You won't have to do it for too long, because this industry has an insatiable need for really clever, smart.
Totally agree.
So yes, it's terrible, but if you can't be a runner and you can't make it work and you can't shine, then you're probably not going to make it anywhere else in this industry either. It's a difficult one, and it's always difficult. And even 30 years on, I still have to come to work and shine, every day. It never stops. So
only as good as your last credit, I suppose.
Totally. And
very true.
We can all be fired. None of us are indispensable. So it's kind of natural selection, and I know that's really horrible, but it is.
It is. Totally is.
When you're chatting to young people and telling them about the industry and the opportunities, and they've got over the fact they have to be a runner for a little while and all that kind of stuff, I mean, what's their immediate reaction? Do you find that people are quite excited generally when you start telling them about post-production, about, oh my God, there's a whole world out here that's actually really exciting, really creative, great bunch of people to work with? Is it something that people are quite sort of buoyed up about once they know about it?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, we're all extremely lucky to be working in an industry like this, really. I mean, it's unbelievable in a way. But yeah, definitely. Again, it's very individual. Some people are so up for it and so excited. I mean, you could literally feel their sort of, the excitement that they want to progress and do. And like Jet said, some of them really want to do it and shine immediately. And you can almost see them come through the door and you just go, yep, immediately. Right. And you're like, because you can feel their energy, and it's just they want it so badly. And others are sort of given up a little bit and not particularly interested in, kind of a bit like, okay, because an interview process is difficult, because you get like an hour with someone and you talk, and then they can be really, really good, and then they come in and they literally look at it and they go, oh my God, this might not be for me. Right. But that's what happens sometimes. They're not all going to be perfect. But I mean, over half of Envy is literally homegrown, so they've all started as runners.
I've always been really shocked by the youngsters who come in, how many people just do stuff on their own, actually, who come into the industry with a huge amount of knowledge already. They've already shot stuff, or they've been part of stuff at college, or they've just gone on and made TikTok stuff, or whatever other platforms, and actually come in with quite a lot of knowledge already about. They may not know exactly what you do, and they may not know, but they've got a very, very clear understanding of it. Whereas when I first turned up in a post-production studio, I literally was like Spaceship Enterprise to me. So, I think there's also that, distinction, that you've kind of got to keep people interested, because quite a lot of them are kind of doing it anyway at home. It's quite interesting.
I suppose the democratization of the software as well has helped, hasn't it? With things being basically free and accessible.
I was thinking the other day, I was at Channel 4 and there was we had no computers, and I was working in the tape library, and we had like an index system with cards. And when I was talking to somebody about it, you could see them looking at me going, what? Like you had no computers. What? So it's like, oh God, Jesus, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But it's funny, yeah, having one IT person at Channel 4 when I was there. It's kind of like, yeah, that's funny.
That sounds quite positive then, in terms of, you know, how we are now compared to a decade or a couple of decades ago and stuff. What more can be done, do you think? And really, I suppose, what do you think, say, in the next decade will be the case? Do you think we'll have this sort of much better balance generally?
I think the gender thing is happening. I think we've realised that we've needed to do it. I think we've answered the call. I think the ethnic diversity really, really has not been addressed in the same way, and I think there's probably other factors which we need to consider in terms of getting the word out there, getting people in, economic differences. You know, all of those things probably need to be looked at. But I think, again, I just think it's the will to do it. I think once we have the will to do it, once we recognise there's an imbalance there, and we have the will to use recruitment and outreach, I really think we can change that. And I think we just need to get our heads together. You know, we're a very resourceful, sort of proactive industry, and I think we just need to get our heads together with that last shift to just to really get a much more inclusive kind of, you know, way of getting the word out there.